All right, so the next talk that we are having is about something, well, as I am myself an indie game developer, about something that seems scary, unreachable, and something that often is being told to me, well, you might not be able to get any advice since, you know, you're just a small indie. But to continue Christopher's talk about being, going beyond your Call of Duty and helping and advising, I have a great honor to announce Annette, Stavenow, Eriksson, and Tommy Persson from Lawyer AB, and they will tell you about top 10 legal indie pitfalls. A round of applause.
Thank you. Yeah, we're waiting for the slide. It's there. Not there. It's not here. No. Okay. Great to see you all. Happy to be here. We're going to talk about lawyer.se, but also, or most, about what the company can help with and what you should think about when it comes to law matters. The law firm lawyer.se work exclusively with the video game business and has been, was founded about 20 years ago. So Tommy here was the founder. We will start by showing a small video about ourselves that we recently made, so you get an opinion about what we are, and then we'll continue.
I am the founder of Lawyer.se. I have been working with video game law since the year 2000. Since then, a multitude of clients in the video game industry have hired us in order to seek business guidance and avoid legal traps. I have both a Swedish and an American law degree. Therefore, our law firm can help video game clients all over the world. I grew up here in Jämtland. Ever since I was a child, I knew that lawyer was to be my profession. I love the video game industry, its progress, and the fact that it's growing faster than ever. I think we might be the only law firm in the world that only specializes in video game law. I've been in this industry for so long, it's like I've seen it all, done it all, and been in all situations. And of course, that is an immense advantage for my clients. No matter where I am in the world, I'm always there for my clients, 24/7, 365. And we deliver fast, often within 24 hours or less. Time is of the essence, and moving fast is a true advantage for our clients. Try to call me on Christmas Eve and I will answer. Legal work is important. Anything could happen out there, and it is essential to build a solid legal ground for the video game developers. We are there for them. Protecting them is our mission. Lawyer.se. Protecting you 24/7, 365.
Yes, so we can stop talk now. You know what we are. Anyway, yes, that's me. Just very brief. It's funny, I was taking a nice walk here yesterday by the beach, and if I swam across the beach, I would land in my garden. I live by the coast in Sweden, so in a small cottage. It's great, so next time I'll take the boat, as Int said. Yeah, so I'm basically a film producer. I've had several film companies. I'm on various boards. I like to develop businesses, and I came on board this firm 4 years ago. I've known Tommy for 20 years, so we're old friends. Yeah, that's me.
And I'm Tommy Persson. I'm an attorney. I got a Swedish law degree from University of Uppsala from 1991. American Master of Laws from American University, Washington, D.C., 1992. A bar exam in New York, 94. So I'm a member of the New York Bar Association. I've been doing video game contracts for 22 years, anything with video game law for 22 years.
Yeah. As you saw in the movie. Yeah. This is just the small choice of our clients. We have an international company. What we do is international. We work with all, mostly in Scandinavia, of course, but we work with America, a lot of countries in Asia, Europe, of course, and Baltic states, and so this is really the same wherever you do, wherever what country you work with doesn't matter. So this is an international firm. We have about 200 clients at lawyer.se, and it's growing every month. We have 8 or 10 new clients, and we don't do anything really to get them. It's just reputation, I guess, and they recommend us to others, and it's very pleasant. You can see by yourself, we are a full-service law firm, helping our clients with all their legal needs. And the advantage with us is that we have the deep knowledge of the industry. We travel to different conferences all over the world, and we are friends with our clients. Most of them we've had for many, many years. So, yeah, full-service bureau. And now we come to the main subject here. Tommy.
Yeah, so there's a main act here talking about 10 indie legal pitfalls, give some legal advice for you to bring with you when you do video games and think about and have some general basic knowledge with you to avoid the biggest traps. And we're going to do this in more kind of chronological order. So first of all, legal entity. Well, you should avoid doing business in your own name as an individual, or having a sole proprietorship whereby you're responsible personally for any wrongdoings. You want to avoid getting sued personally, maybe go to court, a lot of expenses, maybe go bankrupt, get sued by somebody for whatever reasons, breach of contract, whatever. So whatever you do, have a contract, a separate legal entity. So that legal entity will be your vehicle for doing business, for doing video games. And I cannot stress this enough, how important this is. You want to make sure if anything goes wrong, it's your company that's liable, not yourself personally. And if you have a company set up, you're starting doing a business, next thing is financing. How do you get financing for your company? I mean, you get finance through rich family or friends or whatever. But normally the two avenues to get financing, either get a publisher, and the publisher will fund your game for you against some requirements for delivery and ownership and so on. The other way is you find investors to invest in your company. And here it's so important to get investors who have the same vision as you have. You want to avoid investors who comes in, they want to grab some quick buck, quick money. They want you to give them tenfold investment value in a couple of years, because that's hard in our industry. So you want to have investors who understand video games and who are long-term with you in this journey, maybe 5, 10 years, maybe more. I mean, there's so many horror stories whereby people bring in some investors. Before you know it, they do raise capital, a couple of rounds. Before you know it, they own the company, the majority, not yourself. And then you're in their hands, how to build games and so on. Next, please. And if you go with a publisher, the important thing is to find a publisher that has the same vision as you are. Do the publisher have an experience in publishing games in the same genre, or in the same platform as you're doing games for. Had a client 15 years ago who had this fantastic idea for a platform game for Xbox, PlayStation, and they got an American publisher who were expert in mobile games. And the whole journey was a problem because they didn't understand really how to build a platform game for Xbox. They didn't know how to properly market games for that platform and so on. So if you end up with the wrong publisher, it'll be a difficult journey for you. But on the other hand, if you have the right publisher who has done games in the past in your genre, your platform, and know how to market you and help you develop the game, you'll be in for a fantastic journey. So picking the right publisher is so important. Next thing is IP transfer. You know IP, what it is? It's intellectual property rights. So you want to make sure that if you can keep ownership of the IP, because that's the most valuable thing in a game. If you own the game you can make sequels, you can make spin-offs, you can make merchandise, you can sell ancillary rights, make movies, TV shows, toys, you name it. But whereby mostly, if you go to a publisher, the publisher will demand 9 times out of 10 that the ownership of the game is transferred to the publisher. So here you got to be aware of, are you in a position where you can keep ownership of your IP? That means if you can, that's a tremendous asset for your company, your studio. But if you can't, if there's a publisher who has a strong position, they have the money, they have the experience, they have the platforms, and you have just a game idea or a high concept, you don't have the funding, you don't have the track record experience. And if you're going to transfer the IP, you got to make sure you get some good compensation for it. So make sure it's worthwhile for you to transfer your IP to a publisher. You get great funding for the game, or maybe this game will be your first game of many games. You go up from level to level in experience and acknowledgement in the industry and so on. So make sure you know what you're doing. Sometimes it could be a little clause somewhere in the back page 17 of 25 pages saying IP transfer. If you don't know that, understand that, you could be in a world of trouble. And also maybe the key thing making video games, independent of if you own the game or the publisher owns the game, if it's a big game or an indie game, if you do it for mobile or PC or whatever, is IP infringement. You got to make sure when you make a game that everything you make it by programming. So anything, design, graphics, it has to be original. You cannot, like in movies, you can have a movie scene where camera have a panorama view over maybe a street corner. You see a car, you see a Ford coming, you have a 7-Eleven sign on the wall to a store, someone coming up with a Coca-Cola in his hand, have a Nike baseball hat and maybe some Under Armour jersey or maybe some Adidas Puma shoes. That you can have in films, but in video games, everything is done by hand. So it's deemed a copyright infringement if you have a Ford or Nike shoes or a Smith & Wesson gun without permission. So if you're going to have a certain brand of cars, certain brand of guns, certain clothing, you need to have a license to be able to use that brand in your game. And if you don't, you can get sued. A client of mine did a game a while back. It was set in real-time New York. And then in New York, police cars has NYPD on the cars. But you cannot have NYPD on cars in video games because NYPD is copyrighted by the New York Police Department. So whereby you can have police that does general, but not NYPD, for example. And also here, an issue here when you do games is confidentiality, whereby if you have normally a publisher, it could be a platform, sometimes a platform like Xbox give an exclusive license, exclusive payment for them to get the first right to publish the game for maybe 4 weeks on their platform. Sometimes a publisher will finance your game, and then they're going to demand that you don't speak to anybody, media or speak on social media about your game, because the publisher wants to hold the card close to his or her vest and make sure they only announce when the game is ready to be to be marketed. It might be, you might do it through AAA, it might be 5-6 years production, and you only title to talk about a game in the last half year. Maybe they announced the game on GDC or E3 or whatever, maybe this conference, maybe, and so on. And it's a true story whereby a client was doing a AAA game, 5-year production, and after 2.5 years or so, on a Monday morning, one of the producers comes in from the weekend, goes in, gets a cup of coffee, goes to their office, goes on LinkedIn. Today I'm working on this game, XXX. It tells the name of the game, it was super secret. What happens? The publisher calls the developer and cancels the game. And the guy gets fired. And nowadays he changed, book in different business, he may change his name. If you Google his old name, it's his name, breaches, blah, blah, blah. So never ever go on social media and tell them what you do without your permission from the studio or the publisher or the financiers. And some other pitfall is also Sql Rights, whereby if a game is successful, you want to make a sequel, you want to make a follow-up game. Normally in film, the first game is a hit, the sequel sells less, and the third film sells even less. In video games, the first game sets the platform, sets the market, and then the next sequel sells more, and the next sells more. So like in Stockholm we have DICE, it does Battlefield. Done like 6-7 Battlefield games. Each and every one's bigger and bigger and better, and so it makes more money, right? And if you are maybe indie game developer, so maybe as a part of a deal with a publisher, the publisher demands to own the game, so the IP is transferred to the publisher. You need to make sure in your contract, the publishing agreement, you have a first right to do the sequel. If the first game is a hit, you want to make sure you have the right to do the sequel. I mean, this also happens in a famous case a while back in Sweden, whereby in the studio, students made a game as part of their student work last semester, and they signed with a publisher, and the game is a hit. But part of the contract is signed without any help, any attorneys, the IP was transferred to the publisher. And then it was time to negotiate to do the sequel. The publisher says, no, you guys, you're too expensive. You need another studio to do the sequel. You get all the glory and PR or whatever, right? So it might be very, very kind of sad and negative if you have made the first game and then you miss the right to be part of a franchise doing sequels. So whenever you do contracts, make sure that you have a sequel right, or first right, or maybe first and last matching rights, first and last chance to do a sequel when you negotiate with a publisher. So these things are normally hidden somewhere in the back of the contract. These things you have to find out, either yourself or some advisor, attorney, whatever. And the next thing here is kind of a common hidden issue, whereby if you have a publisher, there might be a clause saying that you're responsible for supporting and maintaining the game, and you have to handle first-party support against players, may fix bugs and so on, and maybe it's a new platform, you have to program the game for a new platform, new version of Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, right? Thing is, if this goes on in a contract without limitation, then you have to do this forever. If you don't, you breach a contract. And you want to make sure, if you do a game, so maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days after a game is published, you do support without compensation. But after 60 days, you should have compensation from the publisher. The publisher can maybe recoup from future earnings. We can make sure you don't work for nothing more than potential royalties might never come in the future. So it'd be important for you to make sure that your obligations are through game development, and maybe 30 days after. But beyond that, you need to get more compensation. Otherwise, maybe do another game, for another publisher, and then some of your key team people have to work for free on the old game doing support and so on. Sql Obligations sometimes is the other way around. Not that the publisher will demand that you do a sequel. So maybe you're a startup, you're an indie, you get a contract with a publisher, you do a small game, it goes so, you think finally the game is finished, and we can move on, get a bigger publisher, a bigger finance, and do a bigger game. And the old person says, not so fast. look here, section XX, you owe us. We can order from you to do a sequel. And it can be difficult and sad if you have to, you'll be forced to do a sequel without wanting to do that. You gotta make sure that you have the right to option, to choose yourself whether to do a sequel or not being forced to do that. Because normally, video game development is like football. You start somewhere in a small league somewhere, you want to end up in the Champions League eventually. And you want to have Champions League publishers perhaps, and you want to be stuck in a small division publisher who can hold you on with Sql Rights, the Sql Obligations. So make sure your studio is free to choose your game developments game by game. And then one issue is interesting is non-compete. Our industry is very Americanized. The contracts are very hard and stiff. Normally, if two companies in Scandinavia, or maybe in the Baltics do business, the first draft you get is going to be fairly equal, fairly 50-50, 60-40, fair to both parties. But in our industry, when you get a contract from an American publisher or Japanese or Chinese publisher, it'll be pretty much 100 to 0. You know, all the benefits, you get 0 benefits. So my job, our job, is to renegotiate, move the targets, get better rights, maybe 50-50, 60-40, whatever. And one of those things that's very troublesome is the non-compete, whereby the publisher would say, you cannot do a game in the same genre, a competing game, during game production and for a time afterwards. And one contract said, you cannot do a game as long as this game is active in the market. Okay, how long is that? Well, the publisher was from California. Anyone knows here how long California copyright protection is? 95 years. So you don't want to be in non-compete for 95 years. It's a long time, right? So you make sure that maybe during game production, maybe 6 months post-release perhaps, you cannot maybe announce a game, but at least you can develop them in secret. And then maybe if you have a special field, you do space games for mobile, you gotta make sure there's no non-compete for space games on mobile, because then you're screwed, right? I mean, if that's your specialty, you don't want to jump into making kids game or whatever, right? Because if you have a specialty, stick to that. You want to have that right, not being forced to not work in a field you're good at. Next, please. There's questions, right?
Yeah. We saved a lot of time for questions since this was a very brief and quick go through of the pitfalls. If you want us to be specific and talk more of any of those, or you have questions, we have saved time for that. So think a bit and come with your questions. Yeah.
Or we can tell you some horror stories along the way.
We have a question there.
Hi. With regard to those of us who are self-publishing and on the subject of IP protection, so I've published my game on Steam and I have my IP. So what would be the essential steps for me to take to protect my IP so someone doesn't infringe on it?
I had an interesting talk with one of the creators, the creator of a very famous mobile game. And one thing is, it's hard to protect look and feel to a game. It's hard to protect game mechanics. But what you can protect is the name. You can get copyright to your name. So maybe your game has whatever name, right? You gotta make sure those words, the name in combination are protected, right? So I think copyright, it's fairly easy, fairly cheap to do, right? You can apply for in your home country, you can apply in EU, or maybe US perhaps. And that will be the best way, because it'd be hard saying I was the first one to do space games on mobile, because that's hard to protect, right? If you have a niche that's unique, but it seldom is. But do you have any mechanics, anything unique? Because normally you get copyright either by application or by use. I mean, if you publish a game and then you have certain features, people can't copy it page by page or frame by frame, but people can do it in the same genre. For example, again, DICE, Stockholm, they do Battlefield. They have no exclusivity on doing World War II games, right? But you can't have the exact same levels, exact same features, exact same communication, same lines between the characters. So we can do copyright for your name, for game. If you have anything else that's unique, if you have a unique solution for something, maybe a way you count in-game points or levels, if that's unique, well then if that's established, then you can sue or go after other people who copied your mechanics or your way of doing the game. But I say copyright, name right protection, trade names is the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
And also one thing, when you work with people, when you meet people, have them sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, make sure that what you tell them in a trade secret or whatever, future game, they don't copy it or they don't spill it to someone else.
Right, thank you. Any other questions? Right, so no more questions.
No more pitfalls.
And also there. You have a question, sir? Yeah. You're number 2 after.
Hello. So yeah,
Hi.
thank you for your talk. And I had a question. What's the contract negotiation is like? Like, say you receive a contract and you see all these pitfalls, these risky places, and is the process like you send your edition of it, or you just say, okay, take out that, take out that, take out that? Like, can you tell a bit about what's it like?
It's like playing chess. I mean, you move your pieces, they move the pieces, and it takes. I mean, for AAA, could take. Did AAA a few years back here. We started in March. We signed in November. But on the other hand, we did one deal here in the summer for only a single A game. I say $2 million US. Got the contract on Monday. We signed on Friday. So something goes fast as well. Thing is, normally it's the publisher who will send you a contract. And this, honestly, there's no standard template in the contracts. It's every publisher has their own contracts. They have basically the same content, but you can get a contract for a publisher. So step number 1, demand to get in a Word copy so you can make editions. Don't accept a PDF, which is locked. So get a Word copy, then you read through it, and you make changes, track changes, so you highlight. And if you have any experience yourself or advisor, attorney, or whatever with you, then you look at, or any. First of all, when you talk to a publisher, you want to start with maybe doing a term sheet. Do 10, 15 points you agree upon. What's the game? What's the platforms? What's the budget? What's the production time, release date, and so on. So you do those 10, 15 points first, and through on top of those 10, 15 terms, you build a contract, and they will draft the first contract, send it to you, and then you sit down, then you redline, you strike, and is this beyond what was said in the term sheet, or is it beyond what is reasonable? And it depends also on bargaining power. Are you strong? Do you have a lot of finances? Can you wait out? Can you negotiate for a while? Do you have other publishing options? Or you only have one publisher and you run out of money. You take this now, or you go bankrupt. But then again, you go through the contract, and with someone like me, I will go through the contract and I'll highlight, I strike what's unusual, I add what we need to have, and I'll talk with you, my client, then we send it back by email to the other party, to the publisher, and say, this is our redraft, let's do a call. Do a conference call, or whatever, be on Skype or Teams or whatever, go to a meeting, and then we negotiate with them, say, we need this because of that. And they say, no, we cannot do this, so we can accept that. And then they do the next redraft, and we get back from them, and they maybe do another turn again, depending on how far are you from each other, how much do we need to fix for the contract to be, for you, acceptable. And it's back and forth. I'm doing things right now, stopped last night here up till 4 in the morning, whereby a client of mine is they own the game, they own the IP, and it's a VR game, 3 VR games, and they want to have them on a platform in China. And one of these IPs we have is very, very, very famous, very valuable. And the Chinese platform demand that they can do whatever marketing has to wish. They can cut and change the games. They want to have a limited liability, and we can pay max 12 months of your compensation in compensation for any damages. We can't take that. So I did strike a bunch of things in contract, got back from them, added back, and did strike again, and then get back to them and get a call eventually, and go back and forth. And then at the end of the day, what can you accept or not? But a lot of times, you can get more done than you think, because a lot of times, even big companies like Microsoft, Facebook, for Oculus, Electronic Arts, they can be bargained with. I mean, you need to have guts and be brave and not be afraid. And someone told me, I'm the only guy who negotiates hard against Oculus. So I've done it for 22 years. I'm not afraid of them. But you got to be not afraid, right? You got to be dare to put demands against the big companies. Say, I need this. You can't take that. And they will respect you for it, doing that. And also had dinner a few years back with a friend of mine, who's an attorney for an American major publisher. Said, you don't know, Tommy, we add 5 or 6 devil's clauses in each contract. Some stupid thing that you should find and strike. If you're a publisher, if you're a developer, you don't find those bad clauses, you don't strike them. You say, or if you're not that careful with doing contracts, but then careful doing games, you're going to weed out, make sure you're serious, then do everything by detail.
Right.
So this is a standard I hear in board game and in board game pitching. When a lot of board game designers that go and pitch games to bigger publishers are usually afraid of getting their ideas stolen during the pitch meeting, and they're afraid that they will go and pitch and someone will take photos of their sell sheets and their mechanical overview or whatever they're doing. And I wonder if you have any ideas what you would do if that happens to you. I know it's a very rare occurrence that someone actually steals those pitch sheets and sell sheets, but also what can you as a designer do to protect yourself from that in both, if you have the fear and if it happens?
I think first of all, you need to sign a non-disclosure agreement, confidentiality agreement with the other party. So sign is saying that whatever each party provides in a meeting or in contract negotiation with the other party is confidential. Wherever you pitch an idea or a high concept, or you have detailed graphical pictures for cards or a game or whatever, that's owned by you, and they acknowledge it, and they cannot copy it. And of course, you got to avoid some of the worst NDAs, whereby there's a very famous platform, social platform, whereby they say it's an exception for if our employees can memorize by memory and then write down by coincidence in the future, it's not protected. You get 10 Rain Men to just to look at your material, and then they write it down, and then it's not protected, so strike those sections. So good NDA first. And second of all, then if you can somewhere way document what you have. Can you save somewhere photo, something that so someone has seen it, people can say, I witnessed this, you did this last year or whatever. There's something called the poor man's patent, where you put your design material in an envelope and send it by registered mail to yourself, and have it taped up and put it somewhere in a shelf somewhere. If you ever go to court, you bring it to court. Look here, send this by myself 2 years ago. It has some value at least, and so on. And also, I mean, if someone does copy and infringe your material, first you send a letter and cease and desist, stop doing this, or we will do something. And to continue, I mean, sue them. If you're going to sue like a major board game company, it might be very lucrative, perhaps. And even if they have a lot of attorneys, I mean, there's always a problem if you get sued by somebody, right? And you have a good case, you may settle. Maybe get 1/3 that we're looking for, perhaps, or whatever. So I mean, but always, I mean, make sure there's some kind of documentation we have. So this is my design, my draw. This is unique from anyone else's. And do that. And also, I mean, make sure, so you tell them, we have this attorney, we have that firm, we have worked with this and this and that people. It doesn't make it look stronger, right?
Okay, thank you so much. Any additional questions? We still do have time. No one? No. Int has a question.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking, shall I ask this question or not? But still, then I decided to ask this question. Okay, somehow we all know that these indie developers, they are, okay, not struggling, but they definitely don't have any financial resources, or they don't have any money. And there are so many underwater stones where they can run on or fall off the cliff. What shall they do? Can they approach you or other some legal law companies and ask for help, or to sign maybe some agreement if in the future they will become a AAA companies and they will pay your services? How do they can interact with these legal companies when they are not so rich and not so powerful? When they are powerful, then everybody wants to be friends with them. But then when they are poor, then nobody likes poor people.
I can answer that. Our law firm has the client's needs in mind and for our eyes. So we work a lot with poor, new started companies, and we give them very good conditions, payment conditions, and good price. And we are in long-term companies, so we know that this little guy that just started his company has no money. In 1 year, he'll be big and great, and he'll be rich, having a big company. It's a little world, and we want to help everybody. So we have always place for everybody as client, and we find a way that they can pay anyhow. We negotiate the price and the payment terms. So everybody's welcome to us.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you want to avoid being a startup or an indie that have the greatest idea in the world, and then you have no legal advice, so you get in this pitfall and you lose your game, IP, or you get sued. And I mean, if you can help you do that, we like to help you do that.
Yeah.
Make sure you're in a good position. And I mean, sometimes we had one client here. He had no money at all, like 5 years ago. We helped him out for a very, very, very good price, very low price. And then the game sold, and they made like 10 million euros a year for 5 years. And so it could happen, right? If we could turn them away 5 years ago, they're not going to be a client today, right?
I think, I mean, we're here to help companies, to help everybody with the ground for, solid ground for the house. If you don't have the solid ground, then your house will fall. And the legal part is the legal is the part of the ground. So we really want to help everybody, and that's what we aim for.
Yeah, and in the industry, I mean, there's some wild wolves out there, and make sure you don't get eaten alive, and we try to protect you from that, and so on, and make sure you're protected, so you can make games without making sure you lose an arm and a leg to somebody who's going after you, right? So
everybody's welcome. Please get in touch. We'll be outside after for a while. We have our business cards on the table out there. Maybe you got some face masks also from us, I don't know. I think, yeah, you got one. So welcome to talk to us afterwards, or contact us anyhow. You know our details there. Yeah.
And if you're in Indie, don't be afraid. Talk to attorneys, talk to accountants, talk to advisors, and find a way to work it out. I mean, either be some very rebated form of cash payments, or would it be stocks, or would it be some future things? I mean, be creative. You have your skills, you have your company, you have your ideas, you have your energy. I mean, that's worth something. I mean, today's startup with tomorrow's heroes, right? So to be brave, don't be afraid.
Maybe that's the good last words.
Yeah, you can never get more than a no, right?
Yeah.
I mean, someone in a small, you all know Minecraft, right? Marcus Persson Notch was working as a programmer for Avalanche first in Stockholm, and then he went to King, and then he started his own. Did a game for one year, and that became Minecraft, right?
Yeah, there are actually, those were really nice ending words, but there are still more questions. So
go ahead.
So it's me again.
Yeah, perfect.
So I also come from consultancy, the consultancy side of this, and like working as a consultancy for a long time. I have also started mentoring other consults. And one of the first things I tell them is make sure that your contracts are good and read through and that you know everything that's in them. But if you would give one single advice to a new and starting consultant that's starting out as a game design consultant or a software engineer consultant, what would that be legally, like in a legal matter?
Make sure you get paid. Have a contract so you get paid on delivery, so you don't hold back your payment for whatever reason. You get more delivery. Make sure you get paid. So if you deliver A, you get paid B, and so on. Number two, make sure if you can, you own your copyright and give them a license, not ownership. Number three, make sure you get credit in the game, saying this is done by you. You did this, whatever. So if you get on those credit lines in the back of the game, that's how you build brand recognition. Maybe do 1 game, 5 games. Oh, that guy again. We've seen him before. And then you can probably raise your price perhaps. You get more and more established. So make sure people see what you do. And you get credit, not them, for things you've done. But getting paid probably the biggest thing.
Okay, I just wanted to add, listen to Tommy and Annette, what they are saying. You have to go for Baltic Explorer's accelerator. Accelerator will help you always, because I hope that we will manage to involve Annette and Tommy as mentors in our accelerator. So at any moment they will be available for you if you will be the member of the accelerator. Remember, Baltic Explorers. Thank you.
I mean, also, in our experience, we have, of our clients, quite a bunch of them have started in accelerators, in incubators, where you get access to hardware, software at a good price. You get some place to sit and work in. You get mentorship. You get help. You get some help with financing, whether it be student loans or whatever. Going through a program like this is invaluable. I will say, do it if you have the possibility. You will learn so much. You get so much networking contacts. You get to meet people. You just go to conferences, go to listen to speeches, go to the local lessons, whatever, the mentorship, whatever. You get so much for so little. It's a great thing. You cannot really lose. You can't lose doing that.
Right. I guess that will be it, if there are no more questions. I want to thank you already for helping, for talking, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if anyone has any additional questions, I think there will be during the entire festival here.
We'll be here, outside and in the hotel, everywhere. You'll meet us tonight in the bar or something. So
In the bar. Lawyers in the bar.
Also, we'll be here.
So,
Right. Thank you so much. And we are actually continuing talk on IP rights. That will be after 17 minutes, so 11:30. Please be back, take a quick break, and see you back. 11:30.